And welcome back. Besides the who would win I got to do today, I also decided that, with Sunday, me not doing the box office report, I've done 2 of these now, and I'm very much enjoying these lists, that without me not doing the box office report, because there's just no movies coming out right now for obvious reasons, I would do something else to compensate, and the best to worst videos are videos I really enjoy doing. Plus, it actually takes a bit more work. I mean, in terms of what I do on the channel, in terms of the way I do videos, yeah, it's a bit more work to it. I have to set up all the images, know how to, click to the right image when it's time. So, yes, technically speaking, it is more work. But anyway, so last week I did best to worst characters from the movie Mallrats. But someone had given me suggestions for other best to worsts. I know there was one for Malcolm in the Middle. I know there's one for Stranger Things, and one for Boy Meets World. Now, among those 3, I had only seen one of those. That is Boy Meets World. So, yeah, at some point I have to watch Stranger Things. I know that. But yeah, I'm one of those guys who hasn't watched Stranger Things. My girlfriend has a Netflix account. I don't. I'm one of those weird guys who never got it. Actually, we had it for a brief period, but something came up, and eventually just the subscription fell. And, yeah. Point being is that, yes, we're now looking at the characters best to worst from Boy Meets World. Now, obviously, if you haven't seen in my most recent videos, the way I do it is I don't actually go the best character to the worst character, because that kind of buries half the lead right there. Who is the best character? What I actually do is I go from the second best to the second worst, and then I say the best and the worst for last. The final 2, the big 2 for last. That's the way I do it. Also, when looking at the characters from Boy Meets World, there are a lot of characters. I could have gone through a butt ton of them, but that would take forever. And quite frankly, I just didn't want to take that much time to do it. So I basically, again, I usually try to keep it to the core characters. So in this case, like Cory and his family, the Matthews, Topanga, Sean, Mr. Feeney. Mostly they are the main character, because they're the ones who are consistent throughout the entirety of the series in terms of they're there. In fact, when you break it down, the Matthews, they changed the actors from Morgan, and they made a joke of that in Boy Meets Girl. But the Matthews, they are there from the beginning to the end. I didn't put Morgan on the list, just because she is there, but hardly a big enough character, really, except in the younger years, oddly enough. So the Matthews, Topanga, there from the beginning to the end. Sean, there from the beginning to the end. Mr. Feeney, there from the beginning to the end. I did have Jack and Angela, Sean's half-brother, and his girlfriend. But looking back on it, I actually literally decided before I started this video that I was taking them off the list, mostly because they didn't show up until, Angela didn't show up until the middle of, how many seasons of Boy Meets World do we have? Boy Meets World. Boy Meets World. There we go. Boy Meets World. How many seasons do we have? Because she showed up. I don't want to say, okay, 1990. Wow, it was only on for 7 seasons, huh? Wow. Sorry, it was on for 8 seasons. But wow, really? Only that long? It seems longer, doesn't it? And yeah, so she showed up, I think, like halfway through. Because remember, we started when these kids were young. Like, these guys were only like 11 or 12, maybe 13. In terms of when they started. I mean, not just when they're depicted. I mean, when they started. But as we actually saw them grow up on the show, which, there's 7 seasons. Okay. Sorry, I thought it was 8, but no, there's only 7 seasons. Yeah, we saw them grow up on the show. Literally. So, it's very interesting, to see the dynamic there. I talk about 70s show where, 2 weeks ago, where there's no real evil person. There's like the least good person in terms of the cast, but none of them are truly evil. Some of them are not great people, but no one's evil or anything like that. You talk about this, there really isn't even a not good person. Like, all these people are good at heart. They're good people. Some of them just had harder lives than others. So, yeah, it's like, and I look at 70s Show versus Boy Meets World. They were on at the same time, if I'm not mistaken. They wouldn't start at the same time, but that 70s Show started in 19 98. Oh, wow. It started right near the tail end of Boy Meets World. So, okay, that does make a little bit of sense because, yeah, it seemed a bit more modernized for like the going into the new millennia. And they were on for 8 seasons. So yeah, they kind of, I guess you could say they were the successor to Boy Meets World in some way. In some way, they were the successor to Boy Meets World. But I'm going to tell you right now, I loved that 70s show. Boy Meets World was better. Boy Meets World handled its issues more realistically. You felt harder for the characters. It wasn't just a comedy. It was a legitimate drama in many episodes. Boy Meets World, I loved Boy Meets World growing up. I need to pick up the 70s show. Boy Meets World, I think, is another one I need to pick up. I loved Boy Meets World. But I digress. You're not here to hear me ramble about that nearly 6 minutes in. You're here for me to talk about who the best or worst is. So starting off at the list, our silver medal for the best character on the show is Cory Matthews. Now, Cory, we see from the beginning of the series that Cory he's a good kid, but he's your average kid. He gets into trouble, and he learns from his mistakes to a degree. As the series goes on, we see that if there's nothing else that changes from him, it is that. In fact, he actually fluctuates a little bit from a kid who is trying to get like into mischief and shenanigans and trouble to a guy who doesn't want to do it, who's basically the nice guy of the room, especially as Sean starts to go more downhill in certain episodes, certain story arcs. But then later, once we get back into like the college episodes, I remember one episode. I believe Feeney was trying to impress a woman he liked, had feelings for, and her dick boyfriend was like a zoologist or something like that, found a killer bee, whatever. And Eric goes to them because he knows, like, I need your help for Feeney. We got to do this for Feeney. And they're treating you like a mob scene. He's like, you come to me today, the day of a bake sale, and you ask me this favor. Oh God, I loved it. But yeah, he was someone who was just a naturally good person who believed that everything would work out in the end. He actually believed like, a little bit in destiny. Like he loved Topanga so much that no matter what was going on with them, no matter what problems they were having, they would be together in the end. And he was right. Now, there was one episode after they had broken up in college, he did waver on that slightly. And I think that came with a more... nose a little stuffed. There we go. That came with a bit more of a, age and time, they wear on you after a while. As you get older, you will start to perceive the world differently. And I think that was just something like that. But ultimately, they got back together, they got married, and they had a family. So clearly, he was right in that. If I were to say there were some flaws with Cory's character, and he's not a perfect character, I would say that he is neurotic. He is a bit of a hypochondriac, especially that episode where it's like, you're a hypochondriac. Do you know what that means? You make up little problems in your head. He does try too hard. Because especially in the early days, he was really concerned with his image. But as most young kids going into middle school, high school would be. And again, I look at that from the standpoint of a guy now in his 30s, so maybe if I wish I had the mentality then that I do now, where I don't give an F of what people think about me. Like, you want to make fun of me? Fine, whatever. You want to pick on me? Fine, whatever. You want to try to start something? I'll kick your ass. Fine. I wouldn't want to kick someone's ass, but if someone wants to be that person, it's like, dude, do we really have to do this? Fine, and then just break an arm. So I wouldn't actually break an arm. But point being is, like, I don't give a crap now. I wish I had the mentality then that I do now. And I think a lot of people wish they had that. And Cory, I think, is another one of those people who wishes he had that. Though, to be fair, I don't know really how much that would change. Still, Cory is the second best character on the show. Coming in at a tied number 3 spot is his parents. It is Amy and Amy and Alan. That was it. Amy and Alan Matthews. Now, the reason they fall a little bit lower is the fact that, they're just parents. They're doing the best they can with these kids. But there are points that they do seem either overbearing to some degree, or not even overbearing. They seem a little too, they don't want to lose the control they have on the respective child they have, be it with Alan with Eric or Amy with Cory. Specifically that one episode where they came back from eloping. They didn't elope. And she basically just, she doesn't get nasty with Topanga, but she does she's letting her emotions get the better of her in that scenario. It's like, I don't agree with this. Why couldn't you have just gone to Yale? But then later on, Alan completely calls her out, and basically, not calls her out. He basically talks to her and says how, talking about what she wants. Topanga, use her name. What Topanga wants is to lay his clothes out for him. Feed him, take care of him, and it's like, that's not the point. They're not ready. And then she suddenly just realizes that, and she's just being honest, like, I'm not ready. And it's like, I'm jealous of her. It's like, yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was. She was being a mother. And you see, I may go back a little bit and forth in this video, but we're talking about 70 Show versus, but that might be a video for an entirely different day. We're comparing the two. In fact, you know what? I'm doing that. I'm saying it right now. I'm going to do a video comparing Boy Meets World versus 70 Show. But where you had Amy, who very realistically was just a mother who wasn't prepared for this yet. And she came to realize that and understood that. You get Kitty, who, again, to be fair, is from a completely different decade. At least from where the show is taking place. First, but still being written in a more modern era, mind you. So, because that 70 Show came much later and only was on the same time with Boy Meets World for like 2 or 3 years. Compare those two, where she doesn't have an outburst. She's not controlling. She just is a mother who didn't want to let go of her son. To Kitty, who just would not let go of Eric. Like, she did not want to let go of him because she had a different because we learn about, the problems she had and all that. But still, who was just completely not, I'll be honest, in those moments, she was not a good mother. She wasn't being a good mother. But that's my personal opinion. And then you look at Alan, who struggles with the relationship with his son, especially as they grow older. The episode where Cory, pushes his dad to the ground, and then Eric pushes his dad to the ground, and then they have to basically talk about why they do things why does he do things with Eric that why does he do things with Eric that he doesn't do with Cory, or where Cory does things with Cory that doesn't do with Eric, so forth and so on. They're not terrible people by any sort of means. In fact, if anything, they're probably the best parents in the entire series. Let's be honest. When we look at Sean's parents and then adopted, his guardians, and then you look at Topanga's, despite a little bit of they had different actors play Topanga's dad. There was the guy from the Monkees, and then he had a different guy later on who looked quite a bit of a not a Bruce Campbell. He had a weird. A combination of Charlie Sheen and Bruce Campbell to some degree. I know the actor, too. I've seen him in other stuff. But, yeah. And then they had to get a divorce because he fell in love with someone else. So, yeah. They're the best parents on the show, bar none. But they aren't perfect, which is why I think I put them a little bit below Cory. And I think it's honestly because they're adults, unlike Cory, who isn't for the majority of the series. So they're a bit more jaded to the world. They've seen how tough the world can be and, the experiences that it brings. So that would be my number. That would be I think it's 7 characters I got now. 7 characters. That'd be the number 2 spot. Now you got to start. Well, maybe I don't have to speed up. I'll go as long as I want. So coming in next at the 3rd best character spot. And as we get to the 4th, that'll be the middle ground. It is Eric. And give me 1 second to put this back here. Come on. There we go. Get that image out of there. It's Eric. Now, why is Eric at the number 3 spot? Well, technically the number 4 spot, but the 3rd best character in the series. Well, the thing of it is, Eric is very entertaining. If nothing else, Eric is always entertaining because he's just goofy. He's goofy. He's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of lust for life. And what I think is a little bit of a detriment isn't the right term for to what they did with his character. What they did to his character, quite frankly, is he started out as kind of just a run-of-the-mill older brother. He's not the dumb guy. He's not stupid, but he's just a run-of-the-mill kind of guy. He's a bit more of a jock than anything else. He's not the brightest bulb, but he's hardly dumb. And he very much can easily learn lessons, and you know he's messed up. But as the series progressed, they did turn him more into the dumb older brother. Now, is he the dumbest character on the show? Yes. Is he a Kelso level idiot? Hell no. That, I think, is, again, another comparison to the 70s show that Boy Meets World completely did correct, is that you compare the dumbest character on the show. Eric is a guy who's not an idiot in terms of like social skills per se, but he isn't the brightest guy. Like he's not a scholar. He's just not intelligent in terms of like school smarts. But that's not to say he can't do well. When in the episode where he was hallucinating Feeney so he could get a B on an exam that was worth like a quarter of his grade or something like that. It was worth a lot. He even beat Jack on this. I just got Mr. Feeney. I just got beat by Eric on a test. That's not right. It proved that even though he was hallucinating Feeney's part of his mind. He was capable of doing well in school. He just had to get the right motivation, had to believe in himself correctly. So it's clear that Eric's not actually dumb. I think he lacks motivation. He lacks a certain drive to do well, at least academically. But as we see, again, he is far from an actual idiot. Like socially, he's not stupid enough to believe things like, oh, a robot's going to come around here and do this. Or, I'm so good looking, I can't stand it. Like, beautiful people. Like, he's very aware that he's a good looking guy, but it's not his identity. That's the thing. It's not his identity. And then he has growth moments that actually outrank like things like Topanga and Cory and like other characters, because his relationship with the boy in the orphanage, Jack was his name? I can't remember the name of the kid, unfortunately. But, he's like, Tommy. It was Tommy. And he says, I would like to adopt Tommy. And then the caregiver talks about, the actual, what happens with these kids. And, we started getting less letters, and then we didn't get any letters because she wasn't happy because we weren't her family anymore. And, he has to think about that. And he has to make that gut-wrenching choice. He has to tell this boy, who is his best friend, who's his little brother, where he's been a little brother to him, that I can't adopt you. He's like, yes, you can. And the kid's just like, yes, you can. No, I'm not going to adopt you. And the kid's like, you're mean. I don't like you anymore. He's like, and you can just hear him breaking. He's like, I'm sorry to hear that. And then he closes the door and he just breaks down, leaning against the door, crying his eyes out. Like, that was one of the hardest, I get a little emotional thinking about it. It was one of the hardest things he probably ever had to do in his life. And then that being said, Tommy comes and at least says goodbye to him. He's like, I'm still mad at you, but I don't want to say goodbye. And then, again, I never watched Boy Meets Girl. I saw, like, clips here and there. Like, I saw the finale where everyone came back. Hell, even, what was it, Jack? Sean's old teacher, English teacher who would, let him live in his home for a while. They was like, hey, you doing, Sean's like, I'm like, damn, I love that guy. But no, in the Boy Meets Girl, I think what is Eric running for? He's running for like a mayor position, some sort of political position of some kind, like either mayor or governor. I don't think he's running for. I think it's like a mayor position he's running for, or like at least a council seat or something like that. And then Tommy, all grown up, I don't know if it's the same actor, but Tommy, grown up, stands up and said, Eric gave me to let me go into our family knowing I would have a better life, and I've had a great life, and it's like there's no other choice. And you just see Eric just there. Just saying, Tommy, man, he just gives him just a big hug. It's like, if for no other reason than Eric, despite his flaws, and he has plenty of flaws, hooking up with girls, doing bad on tests, and there's nothing wrong with those, but he'll sometimes trade one for the other, mostly the girls for the tests. Sometimes causing a problem, like the whole wedding issue with Topanga and Cory. That was a big debacle. But if there's nothing else, he's clearly the most pure in terms of how big a heart this man had, or this character has. So for me, hands down, it's got to be Sean at number. It's got to be Sean at number 5 there, or the third highest grossing, third spot. So coming in now, and now we're actually technically speaking, because I took those guys out, I just realized. That puts him actually at the middle ground. Now coming in basically now, and we're basically at the final 3, or the final 3. because we're more or less, this is the second worst character on the show now. Or second worst character. And remember, worst is a very loose term here. It's Topanga. Now, Topanga is a very loving, very caring person. She loves Cory. She's a good person overall. But if we're going to talk about why she's this low on this list, she definitely grew as a character. I'll say that first off. Because she was very much this wacky girl back in the day. I don't want to say hippie-ish, though she was kind of hippie-ish. And as it grew, she obviously matured out. But where Topanga actually shows her flaws, she shows her flaws more often than the rest of these characters do. And I'll say that even Eric. Because Eric's pretty clear about who he is. Topanga, I'll actually say, as weird as to say, she's a bit unintentionally conniving. Because Topanga has always been at least later on, once we get to the main part of the series, beyond like elementary school, she's always been a perfectionist. She's always been someone who cared about being the best. And it's clear that like for some reason drive to compete, at least for no other reason than to do it, in effect it jaded her mentally in some, because it's like she literally in the episode where they both get jobs when they're married and they both have a job, Cory and Topanga. Cory is struggling with his job, and she just comes in, puts the headset on because he's trying to like sell magazines, and he hasn't sold one single one. But Topanga comes in and sells like some odd amount, and he's just looking at her like, what? Like, okay. It's like, and she's just trying to, it's like, you want to make Pookie? It's like, you want to do it? And make you feel better? It's like, no, because you're better at it than I am. It's like, if they actually have a full-on episode addressing this personality flaw of hers, that she's struggled to be the best, she wants to be the best, and even says that, she's so much better at stuff than he is, that it actually put him down. Like, it actually made him feel bad about himself. And then she realized that, yeah, I didn't even realize she even said, I broke your spirit. She's bringing that. Now he has to console her. And it's like, how many times for me? Once for you, twice for you, a lot for you. And it's like, yeah, it's one of those things that ultimately she wasn't doing it to prove anything to herself. She was more doing it to impress the boy she loved, the guy she loved, because that was the only thing she knew how to do to impress someone, is to prove that she was the best. There was also an episode where she was kind of obsessed with her looks, or Sean proved how she was obsessed with her looks, and quite frankly, that was just a throwaway episode, let's be honest. But still, she is a bit obsessive, a little controlling to some degree. But I think that's just the joke that the woman's always in charge of the relationship, which is completely true, let's be honest. No. It should be an equal give and take, let's be honest. Like, sometimes men are going to try to take a little bit more from the women, and sometimes women are going to take a bit more from the men. If you are not happy with your relationship, talk to your partner, try to work it out. Otherwise, yeah, I'm not saying break up with them. I'm just saying notice what things are going wrong. If you can't fix them, make your choices. But Topanga is that kind of, I don't want to say attractive, manipulative, although growing up, she was like one of my first crushes, let's be honest. Her and Michelle Pfeiffer, like, they were two of my biggest first crushes. But obviously Topanga was much more in my age range, so I'm like, yay! Oh god. Sorry about that. Sending caught in my throat. God, I just lost my train of thought on that. Sorry. So Topanga is definitely, she's a bit more flawed than everyone else. She's more, because her goals were a bit more different than the others, it led to a bit more personality flaws within the character, at least from my perspective. Coming in, though, at the number one, I hope I got this image right, in the right spot, as the best character, yes, Mr. Feeney. Let's be honest here. Mr. Feeney had no flaws whatsoever. He wasn't nasty to anyone, unless he had to be. And even then, he wasn't nasty so much as he was strict, when Mr. Feeney, because Mr. Feeney is always the very kind, polite, almost a gentleman, basically. But he's the sage wizard. He's your Obi-Wan. He's your Gandalf. He's the guy who's offering the guidance wisdom. But if Mr. Feeney got angry at you, you paid attention. Because if you pissed off Mr. Feeney, you know you effed up. Because Mr. Feeney almost never lost his temper. And he only lost his temper when it was really like a life lesson these guys had to learn. And so, like when he had to say, get the football tickets, you can't help him. It's like, I like that he called out Topanga, you better stay too, you controlling little twit. So it's like, you yelled at me, but I'm Topanga. It's like, sometimes that is what tough love is it's not about beating someone or anything like that to teach them. No, it's about laying down the rules and, making them understand that you need this. If you don't figure this lesson out, you're going to be screwed in life. And Mr. Feeney taught that. Mr. Feeney was always there for everyone. And of course for Eric. Oh, God. Mr. Feeney. Feeney. And again, I saw that last clip that clip from the last episode of Boy Meets Girl where everyone's there, including the actor who plays Mr. Feeney, and Eric said, Feeney, I'm not talking to you. Fine, double fine. It's like, I taught you double fine, and I taught you everything. Then how come I don't know anything? Oh man, I love that show so much. I mean, I love Boy Meets World, but that was so good. And now I'm like, oh God, it was so good to see all those guys back. But yeah, Mr. Feeney was always there just to listen to your problems, to give advice. Like at one point, I think it was about Cory moving to New York. Mr. Feeney's talking about, a weed or a little, or this flower. He talks about, you see this flower? No, I was worried it wasn't going to make it, but it took root and stayed strong. It's like, because you're worried it wouldn't, because you're worried it wasn't going to survive. And he just goes, because I was worried it was going to stop growing. And yeah, it's just like, he doesn't even have to tell you. It's like, I'm worried. He's not saying, I want to see you keep growing, Eric. No, he just has to say, he just has a perfect metaphor for it, and you immediately understand it. And Mr. Feeney is one of those guys who you wish you had as your teacher. You wish you had as your neighbor. He was just one of those kind guys who was always there to listen, always there for some advice. And he never seemed like he was just there for, it never seemed like he was there because they were forcing him to be there. Like, he's like, oh God, you have me at gunpoint here. Except with Eric sometimes. Like, he literally woke him up in the middle of the night a couple of times. Yeah, Mr. Feeney, to me, no doubt about it, the best character on Boy Meets World. And that gets us to our final character. I think you all saw it coming, kind of, when I said that I was getting some of the characters out of there. It's Sean. Sean is the worst character on that 70s show. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. There we go. On Boy Meets World. And again, I use the term worst so loosely when it comes to the show because there are no bad people character-wise on this show. But if we are going to break it down, it is Sean. Sean, and look, it's no fault of Sean that he's the worst character on the show. He had a very bad he had a little bit of a bad home life. Like, his mom ran out on him. His dad ran out on him. Then his dad came back. Then his mom came back. Then I think the mom ran out again. And then his dad had a heart attack. And, this led him to go back drinking. Because there was an episode where they had tried alcohol and he was still drinking. And Jack explained that, his brother Jack explained that their dad was a mean, abusive drunk, and that alcoholism's a problem in their family. And then we see the episode again where he couldn't find his mom, and he had been drinking again. And on freaking Alan Matthews' birthday too. And then he's like, "Could you yell at me like you do at Sean and Cory?" So it's clear he's a guy who had problems. I mean, he was a serial relationship haver. Like, no relationship lasted extremely long. So he went from, starting from, honestly, middle school and on, he went, oh God, just going through middle school. Let's think about that for a second. Just going through middle school trying to remember how many relationships I remember him having. 1, 2. Because there's an episode where all the girls before Angela came, or like 3 of the main ones, came, kidnapped him on a night where he was supposed to have a date with Angela. And, they explained all the things, and then he realized, did I really hurt you guys this much? And, yeah, of course, one of them no. Sorry, one of the girls, I remember the episode involving that girl, that relationship he was in. No, he didn't owe her an apology for Jack. No, he did not. That girl was a controlling bitch. Again, to use the lightest colorful language I can. Because, again, monetization and all that, because they actually now give you all this stuff in the monetization area, part of the channel. That is like, okay, using this colorful language, and all that. So yeah, keeping the profanity to a light minimum if I can. But yeah, so I'm like, yeah, one of them, no, that one didn't deserve an apology. The other 2, yeah. So yeah, he's constantly messed up his relationships so much, and it's because he just he couldn't have a normal type of relationship just because of what he'd gone through, who he was. And it sucked, unfortunately. But eventually he did overcome this character flaw. I know in Boy Meets Girl he eventually did get married, which is good. But he eventually went to New York with Cory and Topanga and Eric. They all went to New York, actually. And he ultimately made a good living for himself and made a life. So that being said, with all his faults, he's still someone who was pretty much always there for Cory. The few times that he wasn't is because he was like, he didn't understand like what Cory had to be there for him. Understand? So like when he ran away from home, Cory had to stop him from doing. He's like, no, you gotta face it. You gotta face the facts. It's like, fine. It's like, yeah, man, they're gonna kill me. Then I'm gonna be so granted. Then I'll see you when you get out. So. And sorry, my arm, I pulled my arm at work about a week ago, and it's been slowly creeping up in terms of how bad it feels. It's not terrible or anything. I can still move my arm fine. It's just, it's a really dull ache. I don't know if you can't really see it. Like I admittedly have some veiny arms. I don't think you can see it on my arms here compared to that, but my veins are a bit more pronounced. I think because my arm is strained, therefore it's in a bit more pain. Therefore, the muscles are going to be a bit more like contracted and, pronounced because there's a bit more feeling there. But anyway, yeah, he's pretty much always been there. He struggled as hard as he could to help Cory and Topanga get back together when they broke up in high school. Didn't he just says that after they pretended to be broken up because they wanted him to get the credit. He's like, hey, are you guys back together? Good. Who cares? It's just like, yeah. Man, and it does suck. I liked him and Angela together. I did. But it is what it is, unfortunately. Oddly enough, he actually grew a bit more throughout college more than anything. Like, college was really his time to grow. He matured quite a bit. There was again, when he tried to find his mom and he couldn't find her, so he quickly relapsed to having some more drinks again. But still, he came back from it, and ultimately, it was for the best. But ultimately, yeah, that is the best to worst on the characters of Boy Meets World. Now, again, I could have gone through so many more characters. Could have gone through like Minkus. I could have gone through Jack. I could have gone through Angela. Excuse me. I could have gone through the bully from the middle school who was like the greaser guy and his flunkies. I could have gone through them. I'm trying to think of some other one. Could have gone through that cult leader who was a complete ass. I could have gone through his dad, John's dad. I could have gone through all these characters, but some of them just aren't as prevalent as the other ones. So I just felt like the core cast was the important ones to go with. Until then, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. As always, if you want us to review something, put in the comments below. Let us know. We'll do a review of it at some point. I'll be back with the who would win. Thanks for watching. See you later.